She tried to destroy my business. I bought her company and fired her. And the look on her face when she realized what I'd done will haunt her dreams for the rest of her life. My hands are still shaking as I write this. Not from fear, not from anger anymore, but from the pure, crystalline satisfaction of watching someone who tried to ruin me discover that they'd handed me the keys to their own destruction. The tremor in my fingers isn't weakness now. It's the aftershock of perfect, calculated revenge. But let me start from the beginning, because you need to understand how someone I trusted with my deepest secrets, my most vulnerable moments, could look me in the eye and systematically try to tear apart everything I'd built. Her name was Rebecca Chen, and for 3 years she was my best friend, my confidant, and my business partner. We'd started our marketing consultancy together right out of college, splitting everything 50-50. Late nights in my cramped apartment, surviving on instant ramen and shared dreams of building something meaningful. She was the sister I never had, the person I called when I couldn't sleep, when I doubted myself, when I needed someone to remind me that we were going to make it. The irony tastes bitter in my mouth now. She was the one who held me when I cried about my ex-boyfriend's betrayal 2 years ago. She was the one who said that people who stab you in the back don't deserve your tears. She was the one who taught me that the best revenge is success. I should have paid attention to how easily those words came to her. Our company, Nexus Creative Solutions, had grown beyond our wildest expectations. We'd landed 3 major corporate clients in the past year, and our revenue had tripled. I was working 18-hour days, pouring my soul into every campaign, every strategy session, every client meeting. Rebecca seemed to match my energy, staying late, taking on extra projects, always pushing for us to reach higher. The first crack in my perfect world came on a Tuesday morning in March. I'd arrived at the office early, as usual, to prep for a presentation to Henderson Industries, our biggest potential client yet. The contract was worth $500,000, enough to secure our future and maybe even hire our first full-time employees. I was pulling files from Rebecca's desk when I saw it, a folder marked personal. That was slightly open, revealing documents that made my blood freeze in my veins. Henderson Industries letterhead, a contract proposal, and Rebecca's name, only Rebecca's name, listed as the primary contact for a new company called Chen Creative Consulting. My vision blurred. The coffee mug in my hand slipped, shattering against the hardwood floor in an explosion of ceramic and dark liquid that splattered across the documents I'd been reviewing. The sound echoed in the empty office like a gunshot, and for a moment, I couldn't breathe. I grabbed the folder with trembling hands, my heart hammering against my ribs so hard I thought it might bruise. Page after page of client information, our proprietary strategies, our contact lists, everything we'd built together, repackaged under her name alone. Emails dated weeks ago, correspondence I'd never seen, negotiations I'd never been part of. She wasn't just leaving. She was stealing everything and leaving me with nothing. The Henderson Industries proposal was scheduled for today, this morning. In 2 hours, Rebecca would walk into that boardroom and present our work, my work, as her own. The strategies I'd developed during countless sleepless nights, the creative concepts I'd sketched on napkins during lunch breaks, the client relationship I'd nurtured through dozens of careful conversations. I sank into her chair, the leather still warm from yesterday's use, and felt something inside me crack. Not break, crack, like ice under pressure, still holding together but forever changed. The woman I'd trusted with my life, my dreams, my future, had been methodically planning my destruction while I slept peacefully, believing in our partnership. My phone buzzed. A text from Rebecca. Running late. Can you handle the Henderson setup? You're amazing at that stuff. See you there! The casual cruelty of it hit me like a physical blow. She was asking me to set up my own execution, to arrange the chairs and test the projector so she could more comfortably deliver the killing blow. I sat there for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, staring at the evidence of her betrayal scattered across her desk. The office felt different now, smaller, suffocating. Every shared memory was poisoned. Every late night we'd spent planning our future together had been a lie on her part, a performance while she plotted her solo escape. The rational part of my mind tried to find explanations. Maybe there was a misunderstanding. Maybe she was planning to bring me in on her new venture. Maybe the documents were just backup plans, insurance in case our partnership didn't work out. But the dates told a different story. She'd been planning this for months. While I was celebrating our successes, she was documenting them for her own future use. While I was working to build our shared dream, she was laying the groundwork to steal it. I called her. My fingers shook as I dialed, and when she answered, her voice was bright and cheerful, the same voice that had comforted me through heartbreak and celebrated our victories. "Hey, partner. I'm just grabbing coffee and then I'll be right there. Did you get my text about the setup?" Partner. The word felt like poison in my ears. "Rebecca, I need to ask you something." My voice came out steadier than I felt. "Are you planning to leave the company?" A pause. Just a heartbeat, but long enough for me to hear the gears turning in her mind. "What? No, of course not. Why would you ask that?" "Because I'm sitting at your desk looking at a contract proposal for Chen Creative Consulting, and it has all of our client information." The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. I could hear her breathing, could almost feel her panic through the phone. When she finally spoke, her voice had changed. The warmth was gone, replaced by something cold and calculated. "I can explain that. It's not what you think." "Then explain it." I was exploring options, backup plans. You know how unpredictable this business can be. The lie came so easily, so smoothly, that I realized this wasn't panic. This was damage control. She'd probably prepared for this conversation, rehearsed her explanations just in case I discovered her plans. Backup plans that involve stealing our clients? I'm not stealing anything. I helped build these relationships too, under our company name, using our shared resources, while taking 50% of the profits. Look, I don't want to do this over the phone. Let's talk after the Henderson meeting. We can figure this out. There isn't going to be a Henderson meeting. Not for you. I hung up before she could respond, my hands shaking so violently I nearly dropped the phone. The office was completely silent except for the hum of the air conditioning and the distant sound of traffic outside. Everything looked the same. The motivational posters we'd chosen together, the photos from our company launch party, the coffee machine we'd bought to celebrate our first major client. But it all felt like a museum exhibit now. Artifacts from a life that had ended the moment I opened that folder. The betrayal hit me in waves. First, the immediate shock of discovery. Then, the deeper realization of how long she'd been planning this. Finally, the devastating understanding that every moment of our friendship had been tainted by her deception. How many times had she sat across from me, nodding sympathetically as I shared my fears about the business, while secretly planning to leave me behind? I thought about calling the Henderson Industries contact, trying to explain the situation. But what would I say? That my business partner was trying to steal our client? That half of our company was about to walk out the door? It would sound like business drama, like internal problems they wouldn't want to be involved in. And Rebecca would be there in person, smooth and professional, ready to present the work as her own. I needed a better plan. I spent the rest of the morning canceling the Henderson meeting, telling them we needed to postpone due to an internal emergency. Then I sat in the empty office, surrounded by the evidence of Rebecca's betrayal, and felt something cold and hard crystallize in my chest. She'd taught me that the best revenge is success. She'd also taught me that people who stab you in the back don't deserve your tears. I wasn't going to cry. I was going to destroy her. But first, I needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with. I spent the next several hours going through every file, every document, every email chain I could access. The picture that emerged was even worse than I'd initially thought. Rebecca hadn't just been planning to leave with our clients. She'd been actively undermining our current business, scheduling meetings with our existing clients to discuss transitioning their accounts to her new company. She'd been telling them that Nexus Creative Solutions was unstable, that she was the real creative force behind our success, that they'd be better served by working with her directly. One email in particular made my stomach turn. It was to Sarah Martinez, the marketing director at our biggest current client, Coastal Enterprises. Rebecca had written that she was concerned about the direction of our partnership, and that she wanted to ensure continuity of service by moving Sarah's account to Chen Creative Consulting. She'd positioned it as being in Sarah's best interest, as protecting her from the chaos of our dissolving partnership. The dissolving partnership that only existed in Rebecca's mind, that she was creating by leaving. I found financial documents showing that she'd been siphoning money from our shared accounts, moving funds to a new business account she'd opened without my knowledge. Not enough to trigger immediate attention, but enough to give her startup capital while leaving me with reduced working capital for operating expenses. The scope of her betrayal was breathtaking. This wasn't an impulsive decision or a sudden opportunity. This was a calculated, methodical destruction of everything we'd built together, designed to leave me with nothing while she walked away with everything. By the time I'd finished my investigation, the sun was setting, and the office was dark except for the glow of my laptop screen. I felt hollowed out, like someone had reached into my chest and removed something essential. The friendship I'd treasured, the partnership I'd believed in, the future I'd planned, all of it had been an illusion. But in the hollow space where my trust used to be, something else was growing. Something cold and patient and utterly focused. Rebecca had made one crucial mistake in her planning. She'd assumed I was weak, that I'd be too hurt and too scared to fight back effectively. She'd counted on me being the same person who'd cried on her shoulder about my ex-boyfriend, who'd needed her reassurance when I doubted myself. She was about to learn that betrayal doesn't just break people. Sometimes it forges them into something harder. I started making calls. First to our lawyer, then to our accountant, then to a private investigator I'd heard about through a previous client. If Rebecca wanted to play this game, I was going to play it better than she'd ever imagined. The next morning, I arrived at the office early again, but this time I was prepared. I'd spent the night researching business law, corporate espionage, and breach of fiduciary duty. I'd also done something else. I'd started my own investigation into Chen Creative Consulting. Rebecca arrived at her usual time, coffee in hand, acting as if nothing had happened. She walked into the office with the same confident stride she'd had for 3 years, settling into her chair and opening her laptop with practiced efficiency. "Good morning," she said, her voice carefully neutral. "I think we need to talk." "Yes, we do." She launched into what I could tell was a prepared speech about how she'd been feeling undervalued, how she thought we might be better suited as friendly competitors rather than partners, how she hoped we could handle the transition professionally. I let her talk, watching her face as she delivered what was clearly a rehearsed performance. She was good at this, I realized. The concerned expression, the regretful tone, the way she positioned her betrayal as being somehow inevitable and mutual. If I hadn't seen the documents, if I hadn't discovered the extent of her planning, I might have actually believed her. When she finished, I opened my laptop and turned the screen toward her. "I know about Chen Creative Consulting. I know about the client meetings. I know about the financial transfers. I know about Henderson Industries." The color drained from her face, but she recovered quickly. "I told you I could explain." "You told me a lot of things. Most of them were lies." I showed her the evidence I'd compiled, watching her expressions change as she realized how much I'd discovered. The confident facade cracked, revealing something calculating and desperate underneath. "You don't understand the pressure I've been under," she said finally. "You get all the credit, all the recognition. I've been doing just as much work, but everyone sees you as the face of the company. Because you told them to. You said you preferred working behind the scenes. I was being supportive. I was trying to help your confidence." The audacity of it was stunning. She was trying to rewrite history, to make her betrayal somehow my fault, as if I'd forced her to steal our clients, to drain our accounts, to lie to my face for months. "You're right about one thing," I said, closing my laptop. "This partnership is over, but it's not going to end the way you planned." The legal battle that followed was brutal and expensive, but I'd prepared for it. The private investigator had uncovered more evidence of Rebecca's planning, including communications with potential investors where she'd misrepresented our company's financial situation and claimed sole credit for our major successes. More importantly, I'd discovered something Rebecca hadn't counted on. Chen Creative Consulting wasn't just her solo venture. She'd brought in a financial partner, someone who'd invested significant capital in exchange for a majority stake in her new company. Someone who believed they were investing in a proven business leader with an established track record. Someone who had no idea that the track record Rebecca had presented was built on stolen work and fraudulent claims. The legal resolution took 4 months. Rebecca was forced to return the stolen funds, prohibited from contacting our clients for 2 years, and ordered to pay damages for breach of fiduciary duty. But the real victory came when her investor discovered the truth about her methods and the questionable foundation of her business claims. Chen Creative Consulting folded within 6 months, crushed by legal fees, damaged reputation, and the withdrawal of financial backing. Rebecca found herself blacklisted in our industry, her professional network in ruins, struggling to find work with companies that had heard about her ethical violations. But I wasn't done. The betrayal had changed me in ways I was still discovering. Where I'd once been trusting, I was now calculating. Where I'd once been collaborative, I was now strategic. The pain of her betrayal had burned away my naivety, leaving behind something harder and more focused. I rebuilt Nexus Creative Solutions from the ground up, implementing new systems, new partnerships, new strategies. Without Rebecca's constant undermining, which I now realized had been going on longer than her exit planning, the company flourished. We landed bigger clients, developed more innovative campaigns, and built a reputation for both creativity and integrity. 2 years later, I received an email that made my heart race with a familiar mixture of anger and anticipation. Chen Creative Consulting was being sold. The assets were being liquidated to pay off debts, and the company name, client lists, and remaining contracts were being offered to the highest bidder. I stared at the email for a long time, my mind racing through possibilities. Then I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. "I want to buy a company," I said. The acquisition process was surprisingly simple. Chen Creative Consulting had so little value after its reputation was destroyed that my bid was the only serious offer. For less than what I'd spent on legal fees during our original dispute, I became the owner of Rebecca's failed venture. But ownership was only the beginning. The real satisfaction came from what I discovered in the company's remaining assets. Rebecca had never stopped trying to compete with me, never stopped trying to rebuild what she'd thrown away. The client lists showed dozens of approaches to former Nexus clients, most of them unsuccessful. The financial records revealed a desperate scramble to maintain solvency, with mounting debts and dwindling resources. Most telling were the personal notes I found in her office files, fragments of strategy sessions where she'd tried to analyze my success to figure out how to replicate what we'd built together, plans for campaigns that were obvious copies of work I'd done for other clients. Lists of my clients with notes about how to approach them, what weaknesses to exploit, what promises to make. She'd never moved on. She'd never built something genuinely her own. She'd spent 2 years living in the shadow of what she'd destroyed, trying desperately to recreate it. And now I owned it all. I kept one employee from Chen Creative Consulting, Rebecca herself. She'd been working as a contractor for her own company, taking whatever projects she could get, struggling to pay the bills while her business collapsed around her. The irony was perfect. She'd spent months planning to fire me from my own company, and now I was in a position to fire her from hers. The phone call was brief. I told her I was the new owner, that I was restructuring the company, and that her services would no longer be needed. Her silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. "You bought my company?" she finally whispered. "I bought the assets of a failed business. Your company died when you built it on lies. This is revenge." "No," I said, and realized it was true. "This is justice. You tried to destroy my business, and instead you destroyed your own. I'm just cleaning up the mess." The satisfaction wasn't hot and angry like I'd expected. It was cold and complete, like puzzle pieces finally clicking into place. She'd taught me that the best revenge is success, and she'd been right. My success had become her destruction, not through any malicious planning on my part, but through the natural consequences of her own choices. I thought about the Rebecca who'd held me while I cried, who'd shared dreams and fears and late-night planning sessions. That person had either never existed or had been consumed by something darker and more selfish. The woman I'd just fired was a stranger who'd worn my best friend's face while plotting my downfall. Nexus Creative Solutions thrived in the years that followed. We expanded to 3 offices, hired a team of 12, and won industry awards for our innovative campaigns. I learned to trust again, carefully and selectively, but I never forgot the lessons Rebecca had taught me about the importance of watching for signs of betrayal. I heard through industry contacts that she'd left the city, started over somewhere else in a different field. I felt neither satisfaction nor sympathy about this news. She'd become irrelevant to my life, a cautionary tale I occasionally shared with new employees about the importance of integrity and loyalty. But sometimes in quiet moments, I remember the look on her face during that final phone call, the moment when she realized that her attempts to destroy me had instead handed me the power to destroy her. The incredulous whisper in her voice as she asked if I'd really bought her company. She'd tried to destroy my business, and I'd bought her company and fired her. The symmetry was perfect, but the real victory wasn't in her defeat. It was in the discovery that I was stronger than she'd believed, smarter than she'd calculated, and more resilient than she'd counted on. The betrayal had broken something in me, but it had also revealed something I'd never known was there. A core of steel that no amount of friendly smiles and calculated manipulation could touch. Rebecca had tried to destroy me, and instead, she'd forged me into someone who couldn't be destroyed. That's a lesson I carry with me every day, in every decision, in every relationship. People will show you who they are if you're willing to see it. Trust, once broken, can never be fully repaired, but it can be replaced with something more valuable, the knowledge that you can survive anything, rebuild anything, and emerge stronger than before. The empty office where I'd discovered her betrayal is now the conference room where I meet with new clients. The desk where I'd found the evidence of her planning is now home to awards and testimonials from satisfied customers. The place where my heart had broken became the foundation for something better. Rebecca tried to destroy my business. Instead, she destroyed herself and gave me the tools to build something stronger than what we'd had together. The student had become the teacher, and the lesson was brutal but necessary. Sometimes the best revenge really is success. And sometimes, if you're patient enough, your enemies will hand you the keys to their own destruction. All you have to do is be ready to use them.